from my Father is a message he believes that can not only change the direction of our nation, but it can change the direction of your life for eternity.
Young Billy Graham hailed another Billy Sunday.
Reverend Billy Graham, one of the most inspirational spiritual leaders of the 20th century.
Thank you for coming, Billy Graham.
Would you welcome me to evangelist, author, educator, Dr. Billy Graham.
Our recipient, the man who honors us by being here today.
What is your purpose? Go into the whole world and proclaim this message.
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Shall make you free. Shall make you free.
As I look back over my life, it's full of surprises. I never thought I would become friends with people in different countries all over the world.
For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son. I want us to look at the cross tonight.
I see how God's hand guided me. When I began preaching many years ago, it was not with any thoughts that I'd be preaching to large audiences.
Come to the cross. This gospel is for everyone.
God has done this.
Christ is alive. Modern America today, there is a thinking in the soul.
Our country's in great need of a spiritual awakening. Well, there have been times that I've wept as I've gone from city to city and I've seen how far people have wandered from God. Of all the things that I've seen and heard, there's only one message that can change people's lives and hearts.
There is a way if you come by the way of the cross.
Tell people about the meaning of the cross. Not the cross that hangs on the wall or around someone's neck.
We receive our freedom purchased by the ransom in the cross.
But the real cross of Christ.
The cross expresses the great love of God.
Is scarred and bloodstained. His was a rugged
His
cross.
real purpose for coming was to die.
I know that many will react to this message, but it is the truth. And with all my heart, I want to leave you with the truth.
God says, I love you, I love you, I love you with an everlasting love.
He loves you, willing to forgive you of all these sins.
On our churches, we have a cross. It's embossed on our Bibles.
I thought the cross was a relic. It was a medallion on a necklace at best.
It's an ornament that we wear around our necks, Christians and non-Christians.
The cross really didn't have any meaning to me except for something artistic that rock stars wore.
But talk about the depth and the real meaning of the cross, and it becomes an offense. Why is that?
The cross is offensive because it confronts people. Even so, it's a confrontation that all of us must face.
And
take our failure, you take our weakness. You set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, my world to see God in me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes. Oh, raise up the sun down, raising up the broken to life. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
I think there's a real sense of foreboding at the Last Supper, the way that it's portrayed in the Gospels.
There's that moment at the meal, this intimacy. To eat a meal with somebody is to be family with them. Jesus announces, one of you, one of the 12, will betray me.
Jesus is taking them on a path they did not expect. They all sense the ominous stench of death breathing down on Jesus. And they don't know what to do.
It is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish.
It's Judas who is identified as the one who would betray him.
Judas abruptly leaves. Where is he going? For you have the Last Supper, you have the Garden of Gethsemane, and it's like an endless night. While the disciples sleep, Jesus spends the night in prayer.
He's so anguished, so filled with agony that he's sweating blood.
The one that kissed will be the man. Arrest him and lead him away.
Rabbi. Judas walks up to Jesus and does the most loving thing on the outside, and it was the most hateful thing on the inside. He kisses him.
symbol of the ultimate act of wickedness, betraying an innocent Jesus.
From that moment, the name Judas is synonymous with traitor.
Turncoat, sellout, a snitch. Yet questions remain. Why would a member of Jesus' inner circle sell out his master to the Roman authorities? Was it all about the money, the 30 pieces of silver, or was there something more? The video you just saw is from the CNN series, so maybe some of you saw it on Finding Jesus. And as dramatized and spoken about leading scholars, Jesus' prophetic ministry reaches some sort of a culmination during Passover. By the way, the Jewish holiday of Passover started a few hours ago. And the reason I said that is because it's been many, many years, I was told, that Passover actually happens on a Good Friday. And he marches into Jerusalem, we remember last week, on a donkey, and in stark contrast to the trappings of power associated with Roman army. With the Roman army at the Jewish temple, he attacks those who seek to profit from worshipers and earnest prayers and acts of devotion. Jesus tells his followers to render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar in such a cutting manner that it opens him to charges of sedition. Did Judas hope to see Jesus start a political rebellion? Was he disheartened by Jesus' talk of sacrifice? Did he believe in the power of the sword? None of these non-violent resistances that Jesus talks about. Around the table, sharing a Passover meal, Jesus questions Judas's intentions. At a gathering of Jesus' disciples during Passover, Judas gets a picture of how Jesus sees the future. And Jesus' solutions and suggestions seem to be more spiritual, a little bit weak, a little bit kind of small. And what Judas was expecting was something more political, something more violent, something stronger than that. In the Gospel of John, you will see that right before this happens, he washes the feet of the disciples and told them this: "And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, I have given you an example to follow." What's the next few words? Does anyone know? "Do as I have done to you." No. Judas was looking at Jesus. And he must have been thinking, I'm supposed to wash someone else's feet. I'm supposed to serve others. I'm supposed to do what you have done to me. That's not what I was hoping for that I would do. That's not what I was signed up for when I joined this Jesus group. I was wanting a complete overthrow of the Roman government. I was hoping to be in the winning political party and maybe a position in the new government that Jesus will hopefully establish. County treasurer, Judas Iscariot. Sounds good to me, Judas probably said. Then at the Last Supper, Jesus identifies Judas as a betrayer. While Judas may ask, "Is it I?" with an air of innocence, the truth is inescapable. Judas will betray Jesus' confidence to the Roman authorities. Then, accompanied by the disciples, Jesus left the upstairs room. You guys remember the upstairs room? And went, as usual, to the Mount of Olives to pray. The gathering in the Garden of Gethsemane was full of drama, as you saw in the reenaction. Close friends who have traveled together for 3 years face a moment of crisis. Will Jesus lead a rebellion against the Roman occupation in Judea, or will one of his followers undermine Jesus' ministry of peace and reconciliation? I entitled tonight's message as, "Are You Judas?" And I'm sure it's scaring some of you, because you might start answering my question. But the message tonight is called, "Are You Judas?" Because I want you to consider Judas's reasons for turning Jesus over to the Roman soldiers. The discovery of what has become known as the Gospel of Judas has sparked scholarly speculation, and that is why CNN put together this film. There's this gospel that they discovered called the Gospel of Judas, and it has sparked scholarly speculation about the motives of Judas. Judas remains a complex character, full of contradictions, and we need to consider the ways in which we may resemble one of history's most tragic figures. In what ways are you like Judas? In what way am I like Judas? Was Judas cooperating with Jesus, helping God's will to be done? Did he know more than the other disciples? Did he know more than the other disciples on what's about to happen? Did he ever truly understand and love Jesus? When and how is it possible he developed second thoughts? Don't you think he had second thoughts about what he had to do? Could the grace of God finally forgive even Judas? Are you Judas? What is the motivation behind betraying Jesus? Is it the money? Very possible. The ministry of Jesus was not like today's ministries. Private planes needed to spread the gospel nowadays. Slick marketing materials need to be produced in order to tell others about Jesus. CNN's article said, meanwhile, Jesus told his 12 apostles to leave their day jobs and follow him on a traveling mission. You know what a traveling mission is? Traveling mission doesn't pay. Traveling mission doesn't have cars. Traveling mission doesn't have private planes. Leave your jobs and follow me on a traveling mission with few prospects of success and no visible means of support. Well, Judas needed money. He's been unemployed for 3 years. He's been unemployed and probably he's been begging for food just like the others, resources, and begging for a place to stay. When we are lacking money, especially what we used to have. I used to have a better job. I used to have a high-paying salary. When we are lacking money, I used to have a job. I don't have a job anymore. I used to have a job in the Philippines. I was a doctor in the Philippines. When I come here, I'm a clerk. I'm nothing, not like a doctor. When we are lacking money, especially what we used to have, we just might sell Jesus for a more comfortable living. We just might exchange serving for a more lucrative salary. That's not far from happening. So when I ask, are you Judas? Be careful what you answer. It could be true. Are you Judas? Judas cannot wait for Jesus to just annihilate those who are against him. But wait, we need to wash feet first. That's what Jesus said. We need to give to Caesar what is due to Caesar. Isn't he supposed to get rid of this government? Isn't Jesus supposed to get rid of the Roman government? And now he wants us to make sure that we pay our taxes? When, Lord, when do you liberate us from this oppression? Have there been times when you wanted Jesus to act on your timetable? And you're like, why is Jesus taking so long to answer my prayer? Why is Jesus taking so long to punish that guy who hurt me? Why is Jesus taking so long to put me together? I've been broken for so many years. Recognizing our own tendencies to manipulate Jesus, getting God to perform according to our will. Once again, I'm going to ask you, are you Judas? And finally, Judas betrayed Jesus because he didn't like Jesus' call for sacrifice. Is it possible Judas actively resisted the self-sacrificial path of Jesus? Who likes to sacrifice here? Raise your hand, real quick. No one wants to sacrifice. Judas actively resisted the self-sacrificial path of Jesus? Once again, the question is, are you Judas? Have you tried doing that? Have I tried doing that? How many times have I looked at self-sacrifice and said, this is not for me? There's always a story, not just in the Philippines, but also here, but more in the Philippines, that when your daughter or actually one of your sons do not really know a lot, and it's not really that bright, and we don't know what to do with him, just make him be a pastor. If you have a son who's a bit slow, you have a son who is not going to excel in engineering school, in medical school, that's okay. Just send him to the Bible college and make him be a pastor. How many times have I looked at self-sacrifice and said, I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that. That's not for me. How many times have you looked at your vacation days and said, these are precious days for me? How many times have I looked at my paycheck and said to myself, if I don't give my 10%, I can buy a new computer. If I don't give my 10%, I can add that to a car payment for a better car. If I don't take my 10%, I will be able to do something else for vacation. Sacrifice. Is that the sacrifice Jesus was talking about? Jesus said in Mark chapter 8, verse 34 to 35. And you don't have your Bibles with you, it will be up here. Then he called the crowd. I want you to pay attention to the first few words of this verse. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and what? Take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. The sacrifice that Jesus is talking about even goes beyond more precious vacation days. The sacrifice that Jesus is talking about, it goes beyond a better car. The sacrifice that Jesus talks about, the cross that Jesus talks about, it is not really a bigger house. That's beyond that. And here's why I want you to pay attention to the first few words. He calls the crowd to join the disciples. This message is not only for the disciples, but he asked everyone else who was there to come and join the disciples. And let me tell you the harsh demands of what he has to say. It does not apply only to the 12, but to anyone who wants to come along and join this movement. This is the most essential element of discipleship. You want to learn discipleship in this church? You want to learn discipleship? I'm not going to ask you to go to the bookstore and find all the books on discipleship and read it all. That's not how you're going to learn discipleship. Don't think that the only way to learn discipleship is to take a class. Don't think that the only way to learn discipleship is to read a book or experience missions. No need to look further. It's in what Jesus said. To be a disciple, Jesus said, be prepared to lose your life. Be prepared to lose your life. The metaphor of taking one's own cross is not to be domesticated into an exhortation merely to endure hardship. Discipleship, picking up your cross, is not just hardship. Is Judas ready to follow him unto death? Because this is what Jesus is talking about. Am I ready to follow him unto death? Whatever motivated Judas to be the betrayer, I assure you, it still motivates us to do the same. It could be money, it could be our own personal will, or it could be our resistance to self-sacrifice. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it.